Our third Great Idea speaker is Jeffrey Ashe. As the Director of Community Finance at Oxfam America, Jeffrey Ashe pioneered his innovative savings-led microfinance program, Saving for Change. Partnering with Freedom from Hunger and the Strom Foundation, Saving for Change has trained 30,000 savings groups with 680,000 members in 5 countries. Ashe currently teaches at the Heller School of Social Policy at Brandeis University and the School of International and Public Affairs at Columbia University. He also serves as a research fellow at the Global Development and Environmental Institute at Tufts University and Carsey Institute Fellow at the University of New Hampshire. He served as a Peace Corps volunteer in Ecuador between 1965 and 1968, where he launched campesino leadership training in order to ensure that campesinos received land to which they had rightful claim. This initiative involved fellow PCVs and stakeholders ranging from religious leaders to government officials. Between 1979 and 1984, he headed the first worldwide study of microfinance, which helped launch the microfinance movement. He has held leadership positions as Senior Associate Director at Acción International, Director of the Pisces Project, and founder of Working Capital, once the largest microfinance institution in the United States. At a White House celebration, President Clinton awarded Ashe with the first Presidential Award for Excellence in Microfinance. Ashe received his BA in Political Science from the University of California at Berkeley and his MA in Sociology from Boston University in 1974. His latest book, In Their Own Hands, How Savings Groups Are Revolutionizing Development, will be published by Barrett Kohler in October 2014. Please welcome RPCV Jeffrey Ashe.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, a great honor to be here. And I want to make reference, first of all, to Liz Fanning's presentation earlier. And now here's an example. You see this woman here, and the pebbles that she has in her hand. Actually, she is a community leader that through her enthusiasm and excitement of running a saving group was taking it on herself to train more of these groups. And the interesting thing is that little package of pebbles there was her invention, being an illiterate woman, to how to keep track of what number they were on as far as the cycle. Because you had to collect 50 pebbles, and every 4th pebble actually is time for a loan. I'll go into the details of this a little bit. But this is an example. There's thousands of volunteers around the world as all community leaders working entirely as volunteers on their own initiative, forming savings groups around the world. So this is it. So I think the title here, this book, which is coming out in a few months, is it presents a major message of this presentation. In their own hands, how savings groups are revolutionizing development. And the important thing, and the call for this, is to take the whole development paradigm and flip it upside down, because the reason why so many hundreds of billions of dollars have been squandered in development is it's not in their hands, in the hands of that woman there, but in our hands, coming up with solutions that don't fit, and also taking all the initiative, which doesn't leave space for villagers, like this woman here, to express their creativity, their agency, and actually being able to promote change in their villages. So you say, well, if you want to turn the paradigm upside down, why start with savings? Why is savings so critical to this whole process? And it works this way. Let's say you don't have any money, and you start, and you have no savings whatsoever. You start, first of all, by pulling back. You eat less. And then you pull your kids out of school. and then you don't go to get medical care when you need it. And then if that still doesn't work, you start selling your assets. You sell the goat you were hoping to fatten to be able to sell. You sell, if you go further down, you're selling the pots and the pans, even the bed that you're sleeping on. And then if still there's no money, you're starting to sell off your productive assets. You're selling the cow that pulls the plow, and sometimes even your land yourself. So with savings, a cushion of savings and easy access to small loans, this can stop this spiral into poverty and enter into a virtuous cycle as people have a cushion. And I think the women of Mali, when I said, oh, what's the difference? What difference does being in one of these groups make? And they said, you know what? Life is much less stressful now. I'll say that my life is much less stressful myself when I paid off my mortgage. So life is much less stressful now. Okay, so you'd probably say, well, okay, this is the role of microfinance. Microfinance is supposed to provide services, saving and credit services to people, and after all, savings. Microfinance took banking and flipped it upside down and made it possible for the poor to actually have access to credit. So I did microfinance, as this nice introduction indicates. Turned out in 35 different countries, but all the time I had this nagging doubt. Here was microfinance is working great for those that had a business, those who could take on a $200-300, maybe $100 loan or so, or several $100 loans, put this into a business plan, and actually make enough profits off this to pay back the loan with interest, and move on ahead. But that was only maybe 10 or 20%. How about the 80%? Of the 2.5 billion people worldwide that need need better financial services. So I had this conundrum. I went to developing projects here, there, Eritrea, Angola, Bosnia right after they stopped shooting, all sorts of interesting, amazing experiences, but this nagging doubt was there. So in 2000, I had the opportunity to attend a conference, a development conference, and I presented a program I had evaluated in Burkina Faso. I thought it was a great program. Who is going to be able to top this? Then this woman, Marcia Odell, stands up and she says, you know, I've been in place about working with the Women's Empowerment Program for about a year. We have 6,500 groups and 130,000 women organized into groups. And my jaw dropped. I said, in all the years I've been working in microfinance, I have never seen any program even approach this level. I was ecstatic. We got 2,000, 130,000. And how did they accomplish this? Well, they did this by not throwing out financial institutions altogether. There's a paper I wrote called Financial Inclusions Without Financial Institutions, and actually creating many financial institutions, these savings groups, where the women mobilized their own savings, made loans to each other, divvied up the profits, so all the profits went back to them instead of off to an institution, and it moved ahead. So I said, I got to evaluate this program. I cobbled together forces of funding, and I went to Nepal to find out how this thing worked. And I spent weeks visiting with my research partner, Lisa Parrott, visiting groups, and a couple of two stories really stick in my mind from that. One is that when the brand new groups, the first exercise was that the members would stand up and introduce themselves. And in that first group, those brand new groups, they were so timid, oh, my name is, and then they would sit down. And then I visited the groups that are 1 or 2 years old, and they were actively exchanging with me, had ideas, really aspirations for the future, showing the empowering process of this incredible model. And another, just one vision, which kind of sticks in my mind as clear as it was 14 years ago. Lisa and I were in a really remote village, almost so close to the Indian border that we could actually see it. And the groups, the women's group was meeting, and they were talking about how in their groups not only they were building their businesses, but they were advocating against child marriages and wives being beat by their husbands, and also the selling of young girls into prostitution into India. They were doing that and they're excited about that. But I said, there's another meeting. I could just see through a crack in the adobe wall. I walked over there and said, oh, look, there's another meeting going on. There's all these men. And I said, well, what are they talking about? And they said, well, what they're talking about is that women should be subservient to their husbands. The community leaders exhorting them. So 10 yards apart, 2 group meetings, 2 totally different agendas. And this indicates why this is a slow, difficult process. It doesn't happen. And anytime I hear about eradicating poverty or these overhyped claims, we should be happy with the slow, incremental process led by people themselves. It's going to really lead to transformative change in their villages. So my work as I have to show the obligatory, oh my God. Oops. Wow. Technology is, oops, I've gone the wrong direction. Ah, yes. Okay. Okay, everybody is showing a picture of them as a Peace Corps volunteer. Here I am, Peace Corps volunteer. 1966. I had just led a group of indigenous leaders from the highlands of Ecuador down into the coastal jungles. We had been wandering through the jungles looking for a place to colonize, up to my knees in mud. They took this photo right after a monsoon. It was totally soaked, utterly exhausted, and here I was, yeah. So, a savings revolutionary in the making. There I was. But every day, almost every week, after 49 years, I reflect on these amazing experiences in Ecuador, and what they still inform my thinking. Those 3 years that I spent, I'd like to say, as made reference, fomenting revolution in the Andes, bringing indigenous leaders. I have to admit that I was graduated from Berkeley and I was on the barricades of the free speech movement. But hey, you know, it kind of gets you thinking about these things. So anyway, here I am, and so let's go on. Now, I can do this the right direction. Okay, there's 3 guiding principles. Why is this approach so successful? And we'll start with the first guiding principle. And the first guiding principle is no handouts. Okay? So what saps creativity, what saps the innovation of people that come to solve their problems is gift giving. And so a lot of people say, oh, there's a nice group of poor people, we'll match their funds or give them something. And then the whole orientation is, what can I get? And then as soon as they get it, the groups disband. Those groups which are successful really go and tough it out on their own. Even though they're only saving a few pennies a week or a quarter a week, they are doing all the work of holding each other accountable. Okay, I've talked a lot about savings groups, but what does one of these things look like? Well, this is a savings group in Mali, where we have our largest Saving for Change program. These women are coming together every week. They're saving money. And then as soon as they get enough money together, and I'll go into more detail on this, they make loans to each other. And then at the end of the year, usually at the beginning of the lean season, because people are getting thinner and thinner because they're doing the hard work of farming on 1 or 2 bowls of watery millet porridge a day. And so when they get that lump of money, they've been saving and saving and saving, plus interest on loans, they're able to buy enough food so they can survive through the harvest. Okay, so here it is. Now notice the trainer is not here. The trainer is off there. This is a person who's just facilitating the training process. In fact, the basic rule is that the trainers never keep the records for the group, and the trainers, above all, never touch the money of the group. Okay, it's their responsibility. It's your group. It's not ours. All right. So they first elect officers. Here's the president, the secretary, the treasurer. They've come across their bylaws, they've elected their officers, think about their rules, and then they start saving. And the savings all comes together. And then this pot grows week by week by week, and we'll go on to the next stage. So, what happens at the end of the meeting, the person who's the box keeper, who I'll show in the next one, receives all the money, and she takes all the money in the box with a lock on it and hides it away until the next meeting. And nobody opens the box between the meeting before we're sure that everything is done. Everybody's agreed how much is in the box, and here's the box. Here's a financial, here is the bank. Just as much as the bank as Bank of America, because they collect savings, make loans, and divvy up the profits. There's a lock. The key keeper has a lock. We're saving for change, and she's off to hide the box away. Okay, so then after savings, the loans start happening. You got the pot of money. The trainer's still facilitating the process, at least for a few months. Then she gets out of the way, and the group goes on, graduated by itself. The box keeper brings the money back to the group, and then they start with the pot. They start making loans. So that woman there with the yellow spot circle got a loan to get a goat. And this one got some money for some dried fish. And other loans go out sometimes for emergencies. And those emergency ones they don't charge interest on, and they're not so strict about repayment. That gives women a little cushion in case a child is sick or they're facing real hunger. And they continue the repayment. On it goes throughout the year. Now, another basic principle of this, in any kind of development effort, and Liz perfectly pointed this out in her presentation, is you got to start small, but you got to think big. As the founder of BRAC once said, small is beautiful, but big is necessary. Okay, so here we are in the learning process, but plan for scale. Here in the learning process, these women, and this here, and notice the wooden stools on top of each one's head, they're going off to another village for a learning tour. Like Liz has mentioned, they're learning from another group and forming an association so they can work together. Okay, now the most exciting thing about this is what I call viral replication. This is what I call the amoeba model of microfinance, because every group has within it the DNA that it needs to run itself and also to replicate. So here we are. This woman is identified by the trainer as the most enthusiastic about this program. She receives a manual in which all of the steps in forming the group are illustrated in pictures because they can't read, they're all illiterate. She goes to the next village and starts growing. Now and starts new groups. Now how does this work? Here's where we started in the first 2 years. Starting small, 2 NGOs, they form groups in these villages. This is the populated part of Mali. Populated part of Mali is here, and the rest is basically desert. Okay, the second 2 years, using the best leaders from those 2 NGOs and me doing a backward dance, getting out of the process. Now we had 5 NGOs, all led by people who really understood the situation and loved the model. And then we were able to secure funding for the Gates Foundation based on this. And with this, we were able to basically saturate most of the populated area of Mali. So by the end of 2012, we had 20,000 groups with 450,000 members in over 5,000 villages. And all this was created with maybe less than 1/10 of the staff and less than 1/10 of the costs microfinance would do to do this, and they would not reach this population in the first place. So this is how powerful this model can be. So here we are in now 450,000, put this in perspective. This makes this one of the 50 largest financial inclusion initiatives worldwide, achieved with virtually no staff and very, very little money. Okay, so Gates said, okay, sure, well, this sounds all very good, but let's measure. So 500 villages were selected that had no groups. Randomly, half got Saving for Change training. The other half didn't. Is there any difference after 3 years? In the whole village, not just the people participating, but for the whole village, chronic hunger decreased. The value of livestock increased. And why is this important? Because in the early days, in 2005, I asked everybody, said, what's a rich person? And they always said, a rich person has food to eat all year. And they have animals. And so by their own definition, they had more food and they had more livestock. Also, the absolute poorest were being reached in large numbers. We're not talking about the $3 a day or $5 a day or $2 a day or 1 minute a day, but those reached 5, and the whole program expanded virally. And from there, this model went to train, the village trained their girls to form groups, bought up grain to survive through the hungry season. They built businesses, purchased goats, launched community savings, and even though the popular rating of Obama is 40% here, it is 99.9% in Mali. Yes. Change is possible, and it begins with you. And it says right there, change you can believe in, we can believe in. Although they're illiterate and can't read any language. But anyway, so you're still not convinced? Find me during this break. I think this little girl has her doubts, but you can get that to me. And thank you very much.